Hey everyone, thanks for joining. Today we're going to be taking a look at how to create training videos. We will dive into some of our top tools, best practices, and some things that you should keep in mind before you get going with creating training videos. Now, number one is planning. Keep that in mind whether you're doing onboarding, if you're teaching employees how to use a new software, explaining your process. No matter what, the right approach will always make the right difference, and you will need a solid plan before you get going. So keep in mind who is your audience. That should be your number one thing before getting going, and what skill or knowledge do they need to take away from the session. So keep that in mind and plan the structure around that. Now, do keep in mind that you will have different formats, and some will work better for specific audiences or for specific goals. Now, it may be a screen recording, it may be a talking head, it may be a kind of video like the one that you're watching right now, or it may be a mix of both. So do keep that in mind in terms of your audience. What are you trying to achieve and what will work best for them? Now, do try to keep it short and make it clear rather than one really long, lengthy video that could be quite overwhelming for users. Now, I always remember to tell people the benefit of training videos versus heavy documentation. Now, training videos can be ideal for asynchronous organizations. Perhaps you've got global teams working across different time zones, and training videos can be really handy in that sense. Ensure that you've made it accessible and user-friendly, and this is how training videos can be more beneficial rather than reading lengthy text documentation that may be a bit hard to understand. It does make it more accessible for users that may have some trouble when it comes to reading. Watching a video with clear instructions may help them understand how to use things like specific complex tools a little bit better. Now, videos in general are more engaging than text. So if you are trying to teach a whole audience of people, you may find that videos may be more beneficial than having them all read a lot of documentation. Now, some of the training videos that we are going to be going through today do have analytics and insights. So you can see where users are engaging with your content, perhaps where they are dropping off, where they are losing interest, or perhaps they're not even watching the full video. You do want to gather that information. Now, you will not be able to do that if you had documentation unless you did like a quiz at the end. And this is why I do prefer using videos for training purposes. Now, there are some additional items that I would recommend keeping in mind before you get going with training content. And of course, number one, that is camera and good screen recording software. We're going to be going through some of those tools. So some of the options that you could look at if you are looking for a screen recording software or perhaps a training video software for your business or for personal use. Now, a good microphone is always important, and remember, clear audio beats fancy visuals and things any day. Now, do try and remember to keep a well-lit background. If you're recording your screen, make sure that the text and the icons are easy to read. You don't want to have tiny text where users are kind of having to zoom in or having difficulty reading that. Now, do keep in mind that different users will need to keep in mind pace. So viewers may need a few seconds or a couple minutes to absorb each step. So do try keep in mind using pauses effectively and making sure that users can pause at specific points of the video to go back and listen to key areas. Now, some of the training software tools are ideal for different formats, and there may be different audiences that may have good use out of these tools. So they are simpler tools like Loom, for example, whereas you may have more advanced tooling like Camtasia or OBS Studio, for example, that may capture screen and webcam simultaneously. That can keep it more engaging. So we are going to be taking a look at some of these tools. I'm going to take a deep dive into one or two of them to give you a better idea of how these tools work and how they may benefit your organization. Now, do remember some of the best practices when it comes to recording. And we're going to take a look at what those tools offer in terms of best practices and what to look out for, especially when choosing a tool that may be a good option for your organization. Now, Having a look into one of our first tools here. Now, this may be one that you may be familiar with already. So Loom is one of the simpler tools, great for creating like really quick and simple screen recordings and probably best for like internal training. So it may work better for teams that need to summarize things like meeting notes and share video recordings. So good option for asynchronous organizations that maybe have different users in different locations and they need a really quick and simple, easy tool to use. This may be a good option for you. Now, there are other tools like Synthesia that do have things like Avatar, and it's very heavy on the AI training content. I do find that generally when I've done this, that some users may feel that AI avatars are a little bit fake, and there may be some pushback with regards to that. So where we've got some examples like this, I do find that users typically do have better feedback where you do have a real life human on the other end. Now, we've got other options like Camtasia. Camtasia is one of the more, I'm going to say, high-end options that I would look at, especially if you are needing to create like kind of studio level training videos for your organization. So perhaps these could be a good option for if you are doing demos to customers and you're needing something that's really high-end, really super polished, allows multiple audio or audio-visual inputs. Probably a good option for your business. Now, on the pricey side, though, so do keep that in mind if that is something that you are looking for. Now, another option is Powtoon, and this is something I've used before where I've needed to create something like really cute and animated and content that is really engaging and fun. Is it the best option for your organization? Depends on what your target is and who your target audience is. So keep that in mind with having a look at multiple tools. There are a lot out there that will appeal to different audiences. So do keep that in mind when going through different tools. Now, one of the next ones we're going to take a bit of a deep dive into is Guide. Guide is really great for creating videos that need to capture things like workflows, things like walkthroughs, SOPs, very heavy on the documentation side. And this is actually why I use them in my organization. I'm in the technical space, and I find that typically I need a lot of documentation converted into training videos. I don't have time to go back and train each user specifically on how to use a specific platform. And a lot of the things I've got are very document heavy, and they can generally be quite time consuming to take users through. So I quite like using a tool like this where you've got very text heavy information that you need to summarize and have it spit out a AI generated video for you that captures all your steps. It puts in a script for you. It even can add things like music and closed captions, um, as well as voiceovers, which I really like. That was something that was a huge standout feature for me. And some of my colleagues actually prefer using that because they don't like using their own voices in videos. So it may be a good option for you. Now, I'm going to use Guide as an example in terms of what you should think about when you are doing your best practice steps before recording your video. Now, I've already recorded one video and it's something that goes along the lines of how to use a software tool. In this example, I've used ClickUp, for example, and I find it's quite time consuming to take users through this. So think about planning and planning and doing a storyboard for your video before getting going. What are you wanting the steps to show? Think about opening a new project, dragging a few cards around the screen, recording them in terms of your training topics. I would then add a script in. Now, I quite like Guide because it actually adds in the script for you as you're going in through the process. And it automatically creates captions and things like call outs, which is really useful. Now, for specific users, they may not know where to click on different tools, for example. They may not know where to click in terms of documentation, what to look for. A tool like this is really handy because it actually gives you little call outs. It will tell users exactly where to go, where to click, what to do at each step of the process. So for me, this is really handy because it does it for you already. And then it can summarize everything into a few bullet points. And then you can highlight key phrases, for example, reminding yourself of what to emphasize in terms of the training video. Now, there are things like closed captions I would use, and a lot of the tools out there do allow you to add captions to the video. Closed captions may be useful, especially if you've got a lot of audio that's recorded within the video. You can add things like closed captions that will help users be able to follow along and read at their own pace, which is really important. Now, I do recommend using things like audio if it is suitable for your video. As mentioned, Guide's got quite a few tracks that you can use and actually embed into your video automatically. And they've got things like speakers, so you could go and add in different voiceovers into the video to help you and your users follow along. Now, there's a lot of other items that I would recommend having a look at in terms of best practices, but I think the number one point is that you need to use a tool that's going to make sense for your video topic as well as your user audience. So do keep that in mind. Now, last but not least is keeping in mind how to share your video. There's no point creating training videos if you're not able to share them easily and have them in a workspace that multiple users can access. I quite like Guide because once you're done with your editing, you could simply go double check on all the various items that you've got, the various steps that your users would follow, and then making sure that you're happy with everything. You could either go and watch the video and then click on share. So there's a lot of ways that you can share with a tool like this. You can embed it, you can export this, you could copy the link and share it with different users. And what I quite like about tools like this is that it does come with analytics that you could dive into in terms of your video. So capturing who has watched it, who has not watched it, who has engaged with your video, all really important things to keep in mind when you are creating training videos. Now, there's a lot more to cover, and hopefully this gives you a quick outline in terms of best practices and things that I would keep in mind when creating training videos. And hopefully there are some tools that you can go away and have a look at, perhaps try out some of the free trials. A lot of these tools I've touched on today do have free trials available. And I would recommend just taking a little bit of a sneak peek and seeing which one is the right option for you and your organization. Thanks for joining me.